Okay, for this activity you're not going to do anything or open anything, you're just going to watch this video and make your own notes. We're dealing with transparency. So transparency is one of those things you need to check before you send your job to the printer. And transparency can come in all different ways. So I've just got a page here with some examples of how transparency can creep into your document. So the top one here is an object that has a drop shadow. So any effect, so if we go to the effects panel here, any of these effects involves some kind of transparency, and you need to be aware of that. Also, files coming in from Illustrator or Photoshop that have transparency in the background, that transparency comes through to InDesign and may impact on your final work. And then also objects that you have intentionally added opacity to. So like, for example, this large text here has a 50% opacity. So these are all examples of where transparency is present in your document. And it is actually quite easy to not even know that there's transparency. So you need to know how to check it. So the first step is you go to Window, Output, Flatten a Preview, and you change the highlight option to Transparent Objects. And if it doesn't highlight in red, then just press refresh, and any objects that contain transparency will be highlighted in red. So you can see that the drop shadow on this object is red. The background behind this vector Illustrator shape is red, so containing transparency. This text here is red because it has an opacity value of 50. So that's fine. Now that we know we have transparent objects on this page, we need to know, is it affecting anything in a bad way? So we're going to change highlight to all affected objects and refresh, and you'll see that anything in red is indicating that it's going to be rasterized. In other words, it's going to be turned into an image and therefore pixel based as opposed to vector. So generally speaking, you want to try and avoid any text being rasterized, because text always looks better and sharper if it remains vector. So we can see here that this text here is going to be rasterized, in other words turned into a picture together with this drop shadow. This first line of text here and this last paragraph of text is red, which means that just those pieces of text are going to be rasterized. So that's going to result in an undesirable situation where you're going to have some of your text that's going to be pixelated and blurry and other text that's going to be vector and sharp. That's the worst possible result from transparency. And then here you can see that this transparent text here is going to be rasterized together with the paragraph behind it. So there's three places here where we're getting undesirable results. So how do we fix it? Once we've established that there is a problem with rasterization of some text in our document, how do we fix it? Well, the first way to fix it, or actually the first way to avoid it in the first place, is to make sure that you have a layer for your text that is above all other layers. Because if text is above transparent objects, it doesn't get rasterized. So I'm just going to make a new layer and call it text. And I'm going to move all the text objects to that layer. And if I press refresh now, you can see that this text here is not being rasterized. None of the text here is being rasterized, and this is being rasterized because it does actually contain transparency, but the text that the overlapping paragraph is not being rasterized. So that's fixed the problem. So that is the first thing, is once you've established that there's a problem with rasterization of text, move all your text onto a layer above your transparency. If you have a situation where you absolutely must have the transparent object above the text, then you have to actually live with the fact that some of that text might be rasterized. So you just have to check that out. If you are going to have text that's rasterized, make sure the text is sufficient in size so that rasterization isn't going to result in blurriness. If it's body text, then I would say go back to your layout, go back to your design, and change it so that you haven't got fine print or body text being rasterized. That's going to always result in a poor print result. So you can live with big text like this being rasterized. It's not the end of the world because it's big and it will be nice and readable and still fairly sharp. But body text, you definitely want to avoid that being rasterized. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and see you next time.